everyone, welcome to another episode with Broke Girls Art School. In today's episode, I will be showing you guys how I used epoxy and alcohol ink to make this crescent moon wall hanging. Alright guys, so I'll be going over the supplies and everything that I'll be using, and I will tag links in the description box below for Amazon if you guys would like to purchase them off of there. As always, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want to help out my channel. And if you have any questions for me or anything like that, go ahead and drop a comment and I'll make sure to get back to you. Let's get started. Alright guys, real quick, I'm going to go over all the different supplies that you'll need to use to start epoxying. The first thing that you're going to need is your molds. So these molds, yeah, like I said, everything pretty much you can find on Amazon. Some of these things you can find at your local craft store like Hobby Lobby or Michael's, but I will tag links in the description box below. So you're gonna want your mold. Next is your epoxy. So my favorite brand to use is the Amazing Clear Cast. I feel like I get the least amount of bubbles with this, and it doesn't cure too fast. So it works really well with the alcohol ink that I like. My favorite kind of alcohol ink brand as of now is this Pinata brand. This set I think came with like 9 different colors. I also recommend getting your hands on like some gold leaf and maybe some, I'm not sure if gold comes with this set, but like I said, I'll tag them in the description box below. When working with epoxy, it's really important to have like a heavy duty mask like this because the fumes that you'll be breathing in are pretty toxic. So very good to protect your lungs. Just buy a mask, it's worth it, trust me. And make sure that you're in a well ventilated area when doing your mixes. Also, yeah, definitely don't want to get epoxy in your hands, so I recommend using some gloves when working with it. And then you're going to want just some plastic cups, some red Solo cups, and then like some sort of like tongue depressor, like a little wooden stick to mix the epoxy with. In order to drill holes through the moons once they're cured, I use my Dremel tool so I can poke the holes through and then put in the little rings. And I'll explain all of this as I'm going through it, like during the time lapse. You're also going to need a hot glue gun and some hot glue. These were the sticks that I got to mount to hang the moons from. So for like, I don't know, 10 or 15 of these, it was only $10.99. So this was my best bet for something to hang these off of. Other things that you're going to want to grab, I usually just get like a big kind of spool of these chains. This isn't gold, but you can get any color you want to hang them really. But yeah, so I get some of these chains and then also these little like rings. So you can attach the rings to the chain. I have some bigger ones of these. I have a bunch of different sizes of them just to make sure that they'll fit whatever project I'm working on. Another thing you're going to want is some joy making supplies. So you can usually get like different kits with these that have all different sorts, but this makes it a lot easier when you're messing with those little rings to pull them apart and put them back together. And then a couple other things, I like using a ruler so I can measure the distance. So I always like to say, you know, measure twice, do it once. You want to be sure before you get into it. And then, yeah, I think that's about all the supplies that you'll need. If I missed anything, like I said, I will be running over it throughout the duration of the video. But yeah, now it's time to get started. All right, guys, if you want a more in-depth description on how I prepare my epoxy and pour it out, I will tag a link in the description box below that goes over things a bit more in depth. But in short, I usually warm up my epoxy by putting it in hot water before I mix the separate parts. And I use a torch to get all the bubbles out of the top. And I try to remove as many bubbles as I can before I start dripping my alcohol ink. And then I go in with a toothpick, make sure I can get out any bubbles that might have been stuck in the creases, or any dog hair that might have floated in there, any dust particles, you name it. And I like putting in, if I'm using gold leaf, putting in the gold leaf first so I don't have to worry about adding it after I had already started pouring the alcohol ink. As you can see with my drip system, I usually alternate between colors and white. I feel like doing white in between drops kind of pushes that ink to the surface, so you'll get a really cool visual effect with the ink moving throughout the epoxy. So my client wanted more of like neutral tones, so I just used black, darker brown, like a kind of tan color, and then some white and gold. So I kept the color palette pretty simple with this one. And I usually end up doing some pendants while I'm epoxying pretty much anything because they take up hardly any product and, you know, might as well while I'm at it, right? So here, putting in some finishing touches. All right, and you want to let your epoxy cure for a full 24 hours before taking it out of the mold. So here I am demolding all my stuff, and this is the finished product once I took it out. As you can see, what I was talking about with that white pushing the colors to the surface, you get that really cool effect. And yeah, super happy with how these turned out. And I can't wait to hang them up. So this next step, I lined up my moons how I want to hang them, and I'm going ahead and measuring the gold chain that'll be hanging from that top bar. And as you can see, I'm using my jewelry making tools to clip those. You can go ahead and grab a ruler at this point as well and measure out your chains. I just kind of did it by eye, but if you don't have too much confidence in yourself doing it by eye, then I would go ahead and measure to make sure that you have equal lengths with your chains on either side. Alright guys, and I just wanted you to see exactly how I am attaching these chains to the moons. So for example, we'll take this little chain, which is going to be for this moon. And so I already have a ring attached to these moons, which I just dremeled through and added that. So I'm going to take this little ring and go ahead and open that up with my handy dandy jewelry tools. And then I'm going to slip this through the last link of this small chain here, and then attach that to this big loop, grab my other tool, and reconnect them. And it's also crucial to have two hoops like this, because that way when it's like hanging on the wall, it won't be trying to spin on you. It's hard to hold it still here, but you can see this hangs nice and still. It's not like twisting on me. So it'll hang nicely off the wall. So yeah, I'm gonna do that process for the rest of these, and then I'll start gluing these chains to the back of the stick. Alright guys, so now I got my glue gun out, and I'm just going to show you for one or two of these how I attach the chains to the stick. So what I'm going to do is just put a little strip of glue where I want the chain to match up with. And then I like it to wrap a little bit around the back so it has more support, but not too much to where you'll be able to see it on the other side. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I got it on the back, and then I'll go back over that chain with a little bit more glue just to make sure it sticks nice and sturdy. You could use like super glue, but I like hot glue because it dries a lot quicker. And if you want to, like, say I wanted to take this off and redo it, it's easy for me to peel off, but it's still strong enough to where it will hold this epoxy on the wall. So there's one, just so you guys have an idea, and then I'll pop this in a time lapse for the rest of the chains. And I did grab a pencil and go ahead and mark where I wanted to glue these chains. on the back of that stick there, just so I knew while I was gluing it that it was perfectly equidistant and I wouldn't have to take the chains off and redo it. Like I always say, measure twice, do it once. So here we're just hot gluing all the chains onto the back of that. And even if it wraps a little bit around the front, that's okay, because I'm going to be going in with those flowers and adding them on the front of the post anyway. Alright guys, so now that I have all of my chains hot glued to the stick here, I grabbed my fake flowers. So I wanted to get colors in the flowers that match the moon, so I did just like a nice dark gray, a couple of black roses, and then I'm going to be putting just like little baby white roses like coming off on the edges like so. I just think it looks nicer to kind of cover the the backs of these a little bit so you can't see that glue, and it's just a nice little touch. So I'm gonna pop this in time lapse again, and I'll just be hot gluing these on. Yeah, and these flowers, guys, I got all of them at Hobby Lobby, and it's like every other week or every couple of weeks they go on sale 50% off. So I literally never pay like full price for anything at Hobby Lobby. I always wait for the sales. Because why would I spend double the money if I can just wait a week, But these flowers are super pretty. Alright guys, and so next, now that I have my flowers all laid out how I want, I'm going to be adding this. This is like a thicker macrame rope that I'm going to use to hang it. So what I'm going to do is tie this rope in between some of the flowers so that knot will be camouflaged. So I went ahead and double knotted this twice to make sure it'll stick really well. And then I'm just gonna go back with my scissors and trim off the excess rope. And then to make that extra secure, I'll probably put just like a couple dabs of hot glue around the rope so it doesn't come untied. And then I'm going to come over here and kind of line up. I don't want it to be that tall. Maybe like a few inches above that rose, so I'm going to kind of line that up. And I'll be coming down here to make it nice and centered. So yeah, I'm just going to cut this rope, tie another knot around here. Alright guys, so this is the finished result up and hanging. I did end up going back and trimming a couple of these chains to make sure that they were all the same length going across. And yeah, this hanging mechanism works perfect, and you can't even see the little knot behind there. I did end up trimming the ends off of the piece of wood so it would stop right at the end of the moons. But overall, I'm super, super happy with how this turned out. I definitely learned from the mistakes I made the first time around trying to do these crescent moons. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm obsessed with these. I hope my client loves them too. But yeah, this was super fun to make. And it really probably only costed me like, I don't know, 20 bucks in total. Since I already had the resin and alcohol ink and all that stuff. So again, I'll tag all the links in the description box below. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see my future content and help out my channel. Thanks, guys.